Albert Hero.
How's it going? It's iCloud.
Welcome to the show, Thursday, 7 p.m., 26th February. This is show number 139. We got a great guest on, Nate Brookshire. Let's get at it. Be sure and like, subscribe, and follow to the Crypto Bet Podcast. We love bringing it to you every Thursday, 7 p.m. Central. I want to thank our guest from last week, Ramon Martinez, wonderful dude. Deployed with in 2010-11. He has some great stories. Scouting America. He's a ranger for the biggest Camp Geronimo, the biggest Boy Scout camp in Arizona called Camp Geronimo. Go back and check that out. That's episode number 138. You can find that on Spotify. But we got a poll here for you today just to get some of the stuff going in the comments here. What's a small habit that you developed in the military that significantly changed your daily life? It could be anything from shaving to getting up at a certain time doing PT, but we want to hear from you. What's something that you did, small habit you developed in the military that has significantly changed your daily life? I'm going to give a shout out to Daddy James Barbecue. They're doing wonderful stuff. They got barbecue sauce original. They've got the honey barbecue sauce, and now they're coming out with bourbon barrel blend, Colombian coffee, and that's, of course, is going to be a memorial for one of our friends, Stephen Cribben. So that's going to be coming out soon. James McCombs, Daddy James Barbecue. Appreciate you. In a couple of weeks, I think Al Hero is going to be here in town at the Tomball VFW for the IBCA Lucky Spring Fling. That's promoter Jen Lee's cook-off, $10,000. It's a state championship. Lots of good stuff going on with veterans in barbecue. Speaking of that, today is Dennis Butterworth's birthday. I called and wished him happy birthday, sang him a song. A shout out to Dennis Butterworth with War Pig Barbecue down at the Houston Livestock and Rodeo Show. Wonderful parties going on, a lot of competitors, great stuff going on with barbecue. Shout out to former shout out to former guest Danny Archer with Equine Valor Project. The American Legion Post 135 in Savannah, Georgia is going to be doing their 9th annual Warrior Lift Golf Classic. And this year, they've chosen the Equine Valor Project to benefit from that. So if you're in the Savannah area, be sure and hit this up. Equine Valor Project with the 9th annual Warrior Lift Golf Classic. Adventure Therapy, they've got all kinds of things going on. We talked about some of their stuff from last week, but they have, I want to point out, in June 19th through 21, they have a family weekend. And September 4th through 6th, they're actually doing a fishing tournament. So some cool stuff going out there with the ProjectZero.com. Lots of gear, lots of adventure, connection, and recovery. And also a shout out to Project Zero for partnering with their sponsor Quesco, and they took actually one of their banners to the Mount Kilimanjaro. So shout out to Quesco for that. This is Ty's good shit of the week. So I'm not going to do the Blue Falcon of the week anymore, but the good shit of the week is, I grew up watching NASCAR, and I absolutely love the coverage that's going on Fox. And shout out to Team 2311, Michael Jordan's team, winning the Daytona 500 the first week of the season and coming back next week and number 451 again. Shout out to the coverage, the spatial audio they got going on there. Al always calls me a nerd, but it's absolutely true. The spatial audio they got going on whenever, the cars are coming around or when they get in an accident. It's crazy the coverage that they have. Shout out to them. We are going to be going to just live on YouTube and Twitch. So if you're watching the show right now on Facebook, and a lot of you guys are, please go to YouTube, follow us on YouTube, because in a couple weeks our show is just going to be live on YouTube and Twitch. Congratulations to Colonel Byron Green. This is Julie Austin and Matt Cain on either side of the guy in the mentioned Pinks and Greens there. That's Byron Green. I knew all three of these people when they were second lieutenants, and now one of them is a full bird colonel doing great things in the military still, Byron Green. And Julie Austin and Matt Kane, former guest of the show, are doing their Dog Tags to Ownership podcast. This week, we have a great guest. He's one of my company commanders, HHD 716th, and I was out from 07 to 09. We were deployed in Iraq together. He attained the rank of Sergeant First Class as enlisted, and then said, not only that, I'll take a little bit more, and he did 22 more years and retired after 35 years in the Army as a Lieutenant Colonel. And his retirement is a fairly recent thing, so we're going to get into it with him. But now, since Matt Johnson's not here, time to turn it over to the hero and see what he's got going on.
Pretty easy. So, Ty, I do have a rant for today. I was talking to some people, and I just want to be super clear with where I stand on barbecue. I really do. If it ain't Texas barbecue, it ain't shit. I don't give a damn where you're from, North Carolina, Missouri, Memphis, all these places that claim they're the best. Hands down, I'm not going to mention your name because I know you'll probably cry and sue me and all that good shit. But you're wrong. There's no barbecue on the planet like Texas barbecue. I'm from Florida, and I'm saying that. I'm saying it don't even come close. Like y'all are in the freaking amateur D leagues. Like these boys are playing like pro Madden level shit. Anybody out there who and we can argue. I'll fight you in the front yard. I don't give a shit. I'm telling you right now, Texas barbecue is where it's at. Everything else is second best. Like you can rank them. You can say, okay, well then who's next best? It don't fucking matter. Texas's barbecue is where it's at. I think that's probably where it was born. I'm sure way back in like the old days when they were like taking over the country and all this cool shit was happening. I'm sure like somebody was like, let's throw this brisket on this grill. And it was in fucking Texas. If it ain't Texas, it ain't shit. I don't give a damn where you're from. Because I've had people tell me, well, you've never been. I've been all over. Like I've been to Memphis barbecue. I've been to Missouri. I've been to Kansas City. It ain't even in the same ballpark. So that's really my first part of the rant. The second part of the rant is, because it's happening to me a lot, I want to remind my daughter and her friends, because I don't know if you're a girl dad, if you're out there, you got girls, they don't ever stop talking. Like it is, the mornings for me are for two things: coffee and contemplation. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to hear how your day is going to go. I don't want to hear about all the shit. All I need is coffee and contemplation. Anything outside of that needs to happen around noon and beyond. Outside of the morning time, coffee and contemplation. That's all I got, Ty.
Absolutely. So what do you think? We got a lot of people watching. Let me give some shout outs here real quick from the Triple Threat Vet Platoon. Got CIA Bob coming in, Jen Lee, promoter extraordinaire for Texas barbecue.
We love you, Jen.
Beth Harris, former guest.
I definitely love you, Miss Harris.
Doc Powell checking in. She says she's driving, but definitely watching. And Renate White says, hello from Junction City, Canvas. We love Nate. Sorry if I got your name, Renee White. I'm not for sure. He is badass, Ty. Love it. And then this is a special dude right here, Ignatius Mike Delata. So this dude is a freaking legend on Fort Campbell. He was the battalion commander for the 716th MP Battalion. I think he was my XO in 03. Lots of stories from that guy.
And he knows Texas barbecue is where it's at. He said it. He outranks everybody. He said it. Texas barbecue. Anything else, second place. Oh, I don't care. I'll fight you over it. I will fight you over it.
Yeah, we are. I meant to tell you before we went live with your rant, we are live on LinkedIn just because of the response I got when I told everybody that Nate was going to be on. So we're on LinkedIn as well. So you might have to curtail some of the language tonight.
Oh, that sucks. I don't care. Texas barbecue, from all the people on LinkedIn, Texas barbecue is where it's at. Everything else, second rate. Everything else is second rate.
Yeah, no doubt. So Matt Johnson, where is Matt? I think he's down at the rodeo.
I don't remember where he said he was going to be. He's doing something. I don't know. He's he's weak again. He's soft. He missed the show because he's doing important big guy, big boy stuff. Got his big boy pants on out there at the rodeo doing cool stuff. We don't care. You're not here tonight. So tonight you are the Blue Falcon of my night. You're the Blue Falcon of the week, Matthew Johnson.
Nice. So just to say a few words about Nate before we bring him up here. Nate was enlisted and an officer, recently retired MP Provost Marshall with over 35 years of experience in the United States Army. He's been a longtime advocate for facilitating long-term mental health care for veterans and their families. In 2010, he co-authored the book Hidden Wounds, A Soldier's Burden. Its fictional characters discuss the complex topics of suicide, survivor's guilt, addiction, and moral injury. The book has been instrumental in sharing about the nonprofit Hidden Wounds, whose sole mission is to help reduce barriers to accessing mental health care. So we talk about different modalities on the show, and this guy, I'm sure we'll get into this at some point, but I can call this guy on the phone and he's got something new that's going on in his life where he's helping veterans, helping families, just making people get better. In the lead up, I said he's a big guy with a big heart. And what do you say? You want to just go ahead and bring him on?
Speaking of veteran, before you bring him on, shout out to the two, well, one's active duty, but shout out to the Navy vet who was awarded the Medal of Honor. That was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. That was awesome. 100-year-old veteran just received the Medal of Honor. That was spectacular. Straight phenomenal.
Yeah, I love seeing that. And not only that, but also the 160th pilot. We've had 160th pilots on the show. The 160th pilot got a Medal of Honor. And then the Coast Guard gentleman that saved 135 people during the floods here in Texas got a Legion of Merit, I think, or Meritorious Service Medal. I forget what he got, but just the fact of seeing that and Americanism and patriotism and people, the regular civilians being able to see what the military goes through on a day-to-day basis, whether we're at war, whether we're training for war, whether we're doing joint ops with the CIA and FBI. When I say we, I mean them. I think it's wonderful to be able to see that, and I think we need to see more of that in our country. Well, that took a different tone. You got anything great going on this weekend? What's happening with you?
Nothing crazy. Just, spend time with the family. I'm super pumped about going to Texas and hanging out and being around the barbecue world and getting to see some of that again. And that's such when you talk about mental health and PTSD and stress, that is such a stress relieving environment and if you've never, as a veteran or even as an active duty service member, if you've never experienced that type of atmosphere, the camaraderie and the love and just the entire aura that is barbecue or the competitive barbecue world, it is like none other. It is such a release and just such a, God, it's hard to put into words what it does to be able to go there and compete and do something on that level. It's great. It's great for mental health. It's great for all the way around. It's such a good time. So if you haven't had an opportunity to do it, there's some organizations out there. I'm sure some, Ty. Texas Chrome Heroes. There's a ton. Jen Lee supports the veteran community. There's a lot of opportunity to get out there and do something really, really cool. So I'm excited about doing that. Nothing crazy. My brother called me, White Mike FaceTime me this week today, Ty, and it was the craziest thing I've ever seen. A squirrel in his yard came up and climbed in his lap. So he FaceTimed me, and he just had a squirrel sitting on his lap that just came out of nowhere. And then it crawled up on his shoulder, and he ended up taking it, it wouldn't leave him alone. And he took it, picked it up, took it out in the yard and put it in a tree and took off running. But yeah, just this crazy squirrel just decided I guess it wanted to hang out with Mike. He smells like beer and nicotine. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was drawn to that. Maybe it was a hillbilly squirrel, but it was hanging out with Mike. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen.
We still get comments on White Mike's reels where they're like, "Oh man, I need to meet this dude." He came and absolutely just poured his heart out on the show.
Yeah, he's something. He's special.
Yeah.
But no, doing good, brother. Let's bring the guest on.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, recently retired after 35 years in the Army, Nathan Brookshire. What's going on, Big Nate?
Hey guys. Hey, I just have to start out. Hey Ty, thanks for following up. I promised you I'd come on, and when I was active duty, I just kind of kicked the can down the road. And thanks for following up and having me on the show. And Al, man, open invitation. Again, I hear your rant. I agree with Texas brisket. But hey, come up 4th of July. We'll take a day and we'll go up to Kansas City to Q39, and we can have a discussion. But I got it. The brisket in Kansas is not up to par. So I'm a Texas fan. I have.
I'm not saying they don't have good barbecue. What I'm saying is they are not Texas.
So for the next hour and a half, we're going to talk about barbecue. So, and Ty said a big guy with a big heart. Hey, man, I retired and I packed it on, and I cured it with a beard.
Looks so good too, brother. I'm telling you, that beard, that's you stamp it. That's beauty right there.
Oh yeah, and it's a cloaking device. And I was standing in front of my former boss, and he didn't even recognize me, so I just kept walking on. But no pressure.
Right, this is the last couple of days. You were just telling that story.
Yeah, and no pressure. But Mike Delata's on here, so I got some Colonel Delata stories. So I really learned a lot from him. And but man, that guy. I mean, if you can get him on this show, I mean, we got to do T-shirts. There's got to be a flyover. Something. But I see the people checking in. Doc. I mean, too many to mention, but I mean, these are the people that we got really close to, and we had, life experiences with. But I'm glad to be on the show, and I'm ready to answer all the questions except for Bosnia.
There you go.
Except for Bosnia, got you. Okay. So how we like to normally start it on the show, sir, is we like to kind of figure out a little about where you grew up. So tell us where you grew up, what growing up like was with your parents and any siblings, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, like I said, my dad's Navy Vietnam veteran. His story: he was on an LST, switched over to what they call a patrol craft fast, and so he was actually on PCF 94 6 months before John Kerry, and so. We're sitting there in Texas and we're watching, the presidential race, and guy comes up, John Kerry with COSDIV 11. And I'm like, hey, Dad, is that your patch? And he's like, shut up. Yeah. He was not happy. But besides all that, I grew up in a small town.
Hold on, Nate, you left part out. Your dad was a Navy chief. Dad was a chief petty officer in the Navy. I mean, that's a big deal. So
yeah, he's a bosun's mate.
Oh, he was a real Navy guy.
Oh yeah,
that's real. Bosun's mate, they're knuckle draggers. Those are the guys who run. Yeah. They'll punch you in the face. So your dad's no softy for sure.
Yeah, so he had this thing is like, no t-shirts, always a collared shirt. And then he said, oh, you got your hands in your pocket. You got two choices. I sew your pockets up or cut your hands off.
Yeah.
That sounds like some shit that we'd say in our house.
Very, loving father and stuff. But, he would yell like Vietnamese to me on occasion, like Diddy Mao.
Yeah.
Like I'm at 5 years old, he's telling me to hurry up in Vietnamese. So, but he's in his late 70s. He's doing well. He's still sharp as a tack. But his service, just it really influenced me, to tell you the truth. Seeing him in uniform and growing up, he did, I think, 8 years active, 6 or 8, and then did the rest in the reserves. But was on. I think he was in a CB unit at one time. So he was, 27 years. So.
Yeah, it's funny. Bosun's mates a lot of times come into battalions or come into the CBs, and they run like the security type stuff, like order and discipline. They run like the security side of the CBs. A lot of times we had a bosun's mate chief that ran the security division or security department. So yeah, we do get bosun's mates that come in there, and they're a different breed, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think Matt Johnson's brother was a bosun's mate, right? And he basically did everything. He's like a Renaissance man on the ship.
Yep, pretty much.
You know,
everything.
Yeah,
they run the ship pretty much.
Yeah. Hey, shout out to Bob. I see Bob's blowing up the chat room there. That I've had some great conversations with him. Yeah, he'll tell you a story. We tried to track down a Iraqi flag that he donated that disappeared from the 716th, and heartbreaking that somebody took that. But I've had some great conversations with Bob. He's been very helpful to me. And
that's shocking because Bob ain't really worth a dang. He ain't helping nobody. I love you, Bob.
Oh yeah. We all need Bobs in our life.
Bob says he's got a lot of stories. I think anybody that served in the 716th during the end of the time when he was there in any capacity he was in, like I think he was the only battalion commander that I ever knew that, I don't know if we're allowed to say this, he was like the battalion commander of 2 different battalions at the same time. I mean, that's some administrative high level functioning that he had to take care of. He could just, I mean, when you see his mind work, especially with the budget, it was just like watching Rain Man. Like it was crazy.
Well, honestly, the only reason he took a liking to me is because my wife's British, and so he seen me as, a low IQ dude, and I was like, glad to be on the team, but I think he spent some time over in England, and he likes the formal side of the house, and his heart is for soldiers, and like if you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen, because he could bring it, and he taught me a lot. So, but he's mentored all your brigade commanders that are out there now for the MP Corps. He's had an influence on them. So.
Oh yeah, there's a long list of people that are 716th. I mean, it is I don't know if it still is, but when I was there, it was the most decorated MP battalion in the world ever. And so basically what that means, it doesn't mean necessarily they do all the greatest.
They have the best gate guards on the planet.
The best gate guards on the planet for sure, but also it just means they're always doing stuff.
And truly shout out to Colonel Green. I mean, he we served together. We didn't always get along. There may have been a fight in there somewhere where, we disagreed in the talk. I mean, a physical fight. And then, but he's got a good heart. He takes care of soldiers, and he's done some important jobs over the last 20 years. But I mean, we have some great leaders in 716th, and the only reason those second lieutenants grew up to be strategic leaders is because of the strong NCO Corps we had there. Sergeant Major Morris. I mean, there's too many names to list. And I mean, they groomed this.
Morris, Palmer.
Yeah, Palmer. Oh, I love that guy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, there's so
Woodring, Sergeant Major Woodring. Yeah, Sergeant. Even it's just a different breed of NCO. And they're like, okay, we're going to get you where you need to go. But I stepped into as a second lieutenant, 31 years old, and I stepped into a room, we were having some type of, pre-deployment, whatever. And I'm looking like at icons, the Master Sergeant Halasniks of the world. And, I'm like, do I even deserve to be in this room? And what I came to realize as a second lieutenant, I need to keep my mouth shut. Well, I didn't do that, but I, eventually, Sergeant First Class Freeman got me under control. He told me, like, sir, hey, I'm your second platoon sergeant. I'm by the book, and I need to teach you. I know you were, a platoon sergeant, and I know that you've been there, but you have to learn from me how to be an officer. And he's like, if you keep going, you got about 6 months. And I backed up. I let him train me, and ate some humble pie. Which Sergeant Major used to see the buttering the crow? Was that Sergeant Major Brown?
Max Brown.
Max Brown.
Yeah, or Frederick Darden. Last Legend.
What a powerhouse!
And all of them were
that
there.
Guy scared me.
Yeah,
I just thought he had that like little tick in his eye.
Yeah.
Yeah, that he's like, I'm about to kill you.
I always made it a point to I psychoanalyzed everyone we ever served with, but he was one of those people that it took me about 6 months to even crack the code where he would, return a smile to me. But he's one. Frederick Darden is one of the best NCOs that I ever served with. But we're getting way ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, let's
go back.
Let's back up, Nate, because we didn't jump forward. Let's talk about you, right? I want to know about what made you. Obviously, your dad was a Navy chief, served, in Vietnam. Talk to us about what got you into the Army. Where did it start? How, what'd you do? Were you a high school athlete? Give us some backstory on how you grew up, and then how you got into the military.
Well, I was a streetwalker, heavily addicted to cocaine. No, just joking.
Yes.
No.
Yes. Hey, we have something in common. I'm still
addicted. So I was destined for the Navy.
Yeah, you were.
No, so I actually joined the Coast Guard first. My dad was adamant. He was like, hey, in Vietnam, they treated these guys right. They gave them steaks. You need to go in the Coast Guard. So do you know how hard it is to get recruited by the Coast Guard in Kentucky? And so I signed up, split option, where my junior year, I would go and then come back. And that didn't work out. So I was looking for an Air Force recruiter. And I walked in, and the Army recruiter is there. And he's like, yeah, can I help you? I'm like, no, you can't help me. And he says, listen, are you trying to get in the Air Force? And I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm here for. And he goes, okay. He goes, you'll enlist and you don't get your job until after you graduate. He goes, right now I can give you 250 different jobs you can choose from. And so, yeah, I said I wanted to be an MP, and he's, that's how it happened. I, shipped off in 1990, Private E1. Had my drill, my actual recruiter, because he switched me to a different station. He's like, okay, infantry, 2 years, I'll get you RASP. I didn't understand any of this. He's like, in 5 years you'll be a sergeant, and you'll get another bonus. I'm like, no, I don't want to be a grunt. I want to be an MP. And like the fire in his eyes, he's like, I'll make you an MP. You're going to Germany, 5-year tour, and no bonus. And so I ended up going to Fort Polk, which is a whole different kettle of fish. You been to Fort Polk, Ty?
Oh yeah, that's where I ended my career. I worked for General Hickman there right before, when he was the CG there. But I thought it was great because of the small town aspect. But go ahead.
Yeah, Fort Polk's rough. Yeah, you didn't hang out at Jesse's Night Heat, did you?
No, I was already married with the 6 kids at the time, so I just like going out and being a guest OC and stuff like that. But I worked in the command building.
It's a tough environment, so
yeah, lots of good training, and I love to see that when units would come through and train. Yeah. But hey, so let me ask you this: Navy chief, you knew you were going to join the military. You made that decision. Did you make the decision to join the Army because you were rebelling, or what made you want to join the military yourself?
It was just at the end of the day, they had better options. And then my dad said, I'll sign the paperwork. You're 17, but he's not coming in my house. And so, and he was adamant about that. And so, I've spent some time with the Navy later on deployments. And I hate to say it, like, being on a carrier is a whole different way of life. And I was like, I think I made the right choice, because I would have not done well in the Navy. So
no, me neither. They'd have put me on a boat, bro. It'd have been in trouble. I'm with you.
It was,
That was
I
not life for me.
yeah, I came pretty close to death on that boat several times. Is that the right thing? Because my dad was like, it's not a ship, it's a boat or something.
Boats go underwater. They're submarines. Ships sit
Oh,
on top of them.
okay.
I know that much, but
Yeah.
that's about the extent of my naval knowledge.
I was walking around as an Army captain, and they didn't know who I was, and I didn't know, what I was doing. So I almost walked off that aircraft about 3 or 4 times. I'm like, I'm going to die on this thing. And, so, but, they're doing these drills, fire drills, and this Navy chief's like, you're going the wrong way. Like, I don't know what I'm doing, that's the Army mistakenly assigned me to a ground liaison detachment, which is the Army element that is embedded into the Air Force that does close air support. So you're the Army guy briefing the ground situation to pilots before they fly. Well, an opportunity came up to go out to the carrier, and I get out there, and it's just cool because I feel like I'm kind of fulfilling my dad's dream of being somewhat connected to the Navy. And so we land on there. It's like a car crash, and I get off there, and the NCO there is just salty because he'd been on, just angry. And so he walks me through the process of downloading the products, and he goes, okay, he goes, and you have 30 seconds per mission, and you got 30 missions. He goes, you got 30 seconds to a minute. And I'd been used to briefing like F-15 or A-10, F-16 B-1s where you have about 20 minutes, you can really get in a conversation with the pilots. So I said, well, I'm going to get some sleep, and then, we'll, just let me know when my first briefing is. He's like, well, your first briefing is in about 2 hours. And so I go in there, and it's 30, like chiseled looking, like intense pilots. And I'm like, okay, only thing I have to go off of is Top Gun, like that's, and I know if I miss a step that they're going to eat my lunch. And so I know the mission, so I'm going through the slides. I'm going to, Tiger 2-1, you're going to check in at 20,000 feet, on the ground. Here's the scheme and maneuver, blah, 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 blah. And I'm rolling through it. And about, 10 missions in, this guy raises his hand, and he's like, I have a question, and I'm thinking, oh crap, I'm going to look so incompetent. And so I channel the guy. If you've seen the scene in Top Gun, the ball guy, the cog, and he's like, Cougar's out, you're number 1 now, you're going to Miramar. And he's like all gruff. And so all I could think of is I need to yell at this guy, And so I'm like, I said, how many times have you flown this mission? I was like, hold your questions to the end, come see me. And then I rattle on. And so he comes up at the end. He's like, I was playing Stump the Chump. I'm sorry, and I'm like, hey, let's sit down. Let's look at the products, this and that. And I'm like, and during this, the New York Times is over my shoulder taking photos of this. And I'm like,
and what rank are you when you're doing this?
I'm a captain.
Captain in the Army as an MP.
MP.
This is right before you took command.
Yeah. So that was after command. So the reason I ended up in that job is he on here? I don't know. Buzz Crone. I'll tell. It's probably personal. Probably shouldn't share it, but I will. We're in Captain's Career Course, and I get assigned to Fort Jackson, South Carolina, Law Enforcement Detachment, 2nd Command. And I'm like, yeah, I'd already commanded HHD. I, came to the career course. And so, Melanie, my wife of 31 years, she's like, okay, yeah, that's, I'm in for South Carolina. And this guy punches me in the chest. I mean, I'm like, I'm not a little dude, but I'm like, okay, this is cute. But he's like, you took my job. And I said, I just put in for it. And I said, where are you going? And he said, Hawaii. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, he's like, you took my job. And I said, well, why would I switch with you? And he goes, I got cancer. And I've been lifelong friends with this guy, great dude, but he was just in that season where he needed to be around family. And so I went to Melanie and I said, hey, what do you think about switching to Hawaii? And she's like, oh yeah, that sounds pretty cool. We knew Melanie was pregnant, but we didn't know she was pregnant with twins. And so as we got closer to PCSing, I'm like, I got to stay stateside. So, hey, Ty, you think I should tell the Colonel Delata story?
Well, yeah, I do. I'm going to write. Yeah, let's go ahead and tell the Delata story now. But I do want to go back and talk about when you were enlisted too. So go ahead and tell the Delata story, then we'll go back.
All right. So I will leave some names out of it so he doesn't, like launch a nuclear, arsenal on this guy. But I call him and I said, hey, here's the situation. And he's like, hey, Nate, we got options, you can come back to Campbell. But you do what's right by your family. Very, very much like, hey, like very mature of like, hey, this is you're going to do all right. If you want to take that captain career course instructor job, then you do it. And so in the instructors there were Mark Katz. So all the guys I commanded with at Fort Campbell were not all of them, but some of them. And they're like, hey, Nate, you do well in this job. Your family could be here, high risk pregnancy. And so I'm like, I'm all like, yeah, I can. So I walked in and cubicle farm and saw the lieutenant colonel there. And he's like, hey, Nate, have a seat. Glad to have you here. And I said, I called my former boss, mentor of mine, and asked him about, what I should do. And he said, who's that? And I said, Colonel Delata. And he stood up and he goes, you have orders for Hawaii. Get the F on the plane. And I said, so I guess this interview's over, sir. And he's like, get the F out of my office. And so I had to do the walk of shame through all these captains. And they're like, oh, man, that didn't go well. And so I ended up going to South Carolina, and being a ground liaison officer for 2 years. And, great job, really outside my comfort zone. No one ever knew I was an MP.
If we just sat and told stories about all of the, I know a lot of your stories, but I had never heard some of those. If we just sat and told the stories all night, we would have a 6-hour Sean Ryan type.
Hey, and the best thing is they're different every time I tell them.
Ain't they? Like you said, the only thing that fucks up a good combat story is a witness, right?
An eyewitness, yeah. So if you get a chance to listen to Admiral McRaven's Sea Stories, that whole series, Wisdom of the Bullfrog, that guy's a master storyteller.
Yeah, we put Wisdom of the Bullfrog on the reading list because you mentioned it. So we read that. I audiobooked it. I audiobook a lot of them.
I ain't reading anything. So, it's got to be audiobook for me, bro.
I can't see the words anymore, so I listen to them. And,
right.
And plus, it's him talking, so you're hearing Admiral McRaven tell you,
story. Yeah. So I want to hear about your enlisted time. You went from enlisted NCO doing great things into the dark side of the world, right? You became a cake eater. It's okay. We'll give it to you, but you became a cake eater and ring tapper, all them good things, right? Let's talk about your enlisted time. So you joined the Army, you went MP, obviously, you didn't get a bonus. Fast forward just a little bit. So here you are, you're an enlisted. What was it like being enlisted in the MP Corps?
I loved it. The fact that, my goal was to make E7 because, I mean, that was my dad, and so when I call him up, every time I get a promotion, he's like, when you making the next one, I'd be a corporal and he'd be like, when you making sergeant, and so, but, I was straight out Kentucky, not a very, bright, I was a very challenging private. But I ended up at Fort Polk.
What do you mean by challenging, sir? Why were you
Just
challenging?
challenging is like I was just naive, like the first night I got to Fort Polk, they put me in a Humvee and took me out to Peace on Ridge, and I'm wandering around, in the swamp, and I don't know anything. So I finally made it to the talk, and they're like, hey, just sit here and check badges. And I'm like, yes, sir. And
I knew it.
Yep.
I knew it, Bob. I don't think you're all gate guards. I think you were a gate guard. Everybody else did cool stuff. You, my friend, probably didn't.
So I did Desert Shield, Desert Storm. That's what I did to support our country. I was a gate guard for Desert Shield, Desert Storm. Yeah.
I was still playing. You were a real GI Joe though, bro. I was still playing with GI Joes. So like you were out there doing it.
Yeah, and
you were out there doing it.
So
okay. Yeah. Hold up. Colonel Ignatius Mike Delata says, Nate, give me a name. Darth Vader has fucking spoken.
Oh yeah, say I will come out to Texas and give him that name
in person. I've asked Colonel Delata to be on the show, so
yeah,
let's make sure we have the name.
If he comes on the show, I will give him the name.
There you go.
Yeah, someone's about to be in trouble.
Yeah.
All right, so
that guy's retired now, and man,
it don't matter.
Oh,
we're gonna find some UCMJ somewhere. We're gonna find some UCMJ.
I was gonna hold up the doll and say, "Where did the bad colonel touch you?"
yeah, right there, right in my heart.
Yeah, like, oh man, he was so angry. Yeah, yeah. But that's the shortest interview I've ever had in my life. It was like 30 seconds, and hopefully,
so it was like an interview from Step Brothers. Like
yeah,
like it was that bad.
That bad. It was that bad. So, yeah, I was out the door, and Mark Katz, I think he's a retired colonel now too, 561 commander. He would be a good guy to get on here too.
So you went to Desert Storm, Desert Shield. What'd you do?
I did not. I was at Fort Polk. I was guarding.
Okay, you were guarding gates. You said.
Yeah. So, and these guys came back, and I mean, our sister company 258 came back, and they're all getting their Bronze Stars and War Heroes, and it was, and that shame of not having a combat tour over the years. I mean, it's just, and I feel for people now is like, that really bothered me for many years. It's like like, man, I want to be in a fight. And the first time I got to Fort Campbell, and my platoon had just redeployed 8 months prior. And so here I am, an older second lieutenant, and I'd walk by and they'd say under their breath, flag. And so to train a platoon for the next rotation, and it's just like I got down to basics. I'm just like, hey, you don't know the operational environment, it's changed, and so you were fighting, exploding Pepsi cans, and it's a different site. And I'll tell you, one of the best train ups we had with that HHD is it's just, we took it very serious. And our Sergeant Major Palmer stacked the deck. I mean, heroes like Sergeant First Class Cribben, he was a team leader back then on the Sergeant Major's team. There's so many names, and I don't want to leave anybody out, but I mean, that was a great crew to deploy with. And these weren't pack clerks, and these guys were in the fight.
So yeah, you're talking about the 0709?
Yeah.
Yeah, that 0709, that was my 6th deployment, and I don't think anybody really on the staff had less than 4. I think I had deployed with Byron Green 3 times by the time he was a captain. So yeah, there was a lot of experience and a lot of knives out, knife hand. If you weren't on the straight and narrow, if you wasn't doing what's supposed to be done, people would blow you in place like very quickly.
And back to Al's question about my enlisted time. So I was, I came to Germany as a private. I had, a lot of team leaders and squad leaders that were out of Bragg. So being non-airborne qualified, I spent a lot of time in the front leaning rest position.
Yeah, strong or smart.
Yeah, and they're just absolutely about field craft, and so, being in a 630th MP company, but eventually I went to, I was an armor for a while, which was kind of a cool job. And then I went over into investigations. And so I stayed in a garrison MP unit from 95 to 2003. So I worked investigations, I worked traffic, I worked physical security, I became the operations sergeant, went to Bosnia as a desk sergeant, and just absolutely did the garrison MP type mission, which back in the day is like, if you were a garrison MP, I mean, and not a muddy boots, I mean, it's a lot of judgment. And so, I put in a CID packet. So they said you had to be an E5 non-promotable, and I was a staff sergeant promotable. So I said, hey, drop me down to E5. I'll go, CID. So they're like, hey, go commission. We'll bring you over as a CW2. Mm. And so, I had a Provost Marshall at the time. He put my OCS packet together, my board. He's like, show up at this time. And Melanie, Melanie's like, hey, you have a degree, just go OCS. I would have been year group 97 if I'd listened to Melanie. But I didn't. And, it's hard being married to somebody that's way smarter than you.
Oh, trust me. Me and Ty both
we
know this.
Exactly.
We know. I know exactly what you're talking about.
So, yeah, everything, and of course, when we met, I had 3 semester hours of college, and I'm like, that's not for me. And we got married. She knew nothing about the Army, and she's like, if you take college, you get promoted, right? And I'm like, yes. And she goes, you're going to take 2 classes per semester. And so I'd not, you're not supposed to, but I'd share my investigator statements, and she's like, this is all caps. This is the longest run-on sentence I've ever heard in the world. Like, would you want to go to court with this? And I'm like, all offended, like, oh my God, I'm an idiot. And but she's like, no, you just don't know what you don't know. And of course, she kept pushing, and through, she always was like, you need to be, taking some type of, college. And I got to Fort Campbell and still had intentions of going CID. And then we're 3 months from deployment. And I'm like, there's no way I'm going to my battalion commander and saying, hey, I'm going to bow out of this deployment so I can go, investigate crimes. Mm. That was Colonel Hayes too. Wonderful man, wonderful family.
So what year is this?
2004.
Okay, so Ashton Hayes, we're getting ready to.
Sorry, Major Morris.
Yeah. Okay. So talk to me a little bit about from the time you joined as a road MP per se, or a traffic cop. A lot of the gate guards. There's a lot of like supernumerary stuff that you guys did to make your stuff stand apart. Talk about kind of that, which you touched on, the beginning when you were enlisted, what the MP role was, and kind of how it morphed after 9/11, and then what that meant to you as an officer.
Old school MP is like, you show up to guard mount, your uniform is impeccable, and the person that looks the best gets the day off. And so, and if you're jacked up, you pay for it. but it's very much, it was post the black headliner. Just I missed that by a year. But it's very strapped, and like, and without incriminating myself, is like, if you're in a traffic stop or a bar and somebody even bowed up, it was not pretty, and so I had one platoon sergeant in Germany, um, like, very quick with the nightstick. Um, so it was a very different, like, you did not bow up on military police, and those that would not pass in today's law enforcement. But you're with soldiers, and they love to fight, and so I had somebody give me some very good advice dealing with bar fights: is don't run to an ass kicking. Yeah.
Right.
So you let them fight it out, and then you scoop them up, and you go from there. So
Yeah, that when I got to Fort Campbell in '98, that was one of the first things they talked about is, 163rd was working the road, and
Yep.
Sometimes 551, 561, they would all take what was it called, training cycles. They would be on the road.
Yeah.
But that's what they always said. Like, they absolutely hate the MPs because all those combat arms guys that are down the road, they're all the ones that are fighting.
Yeah.
So, but that's a different era.
And I know it's, no one likes, MP. You got to have thick skin, but I'm not taking anything away from combat arms. I mean, they're the edge of the sword. But you have young 18-year-olds responding to domestics getting shot at. You're working, as investigators, doing, seeing heinous stuff.
Mhm.
And so after, especially working with CID, I did 2 years as the S3 and XO for 22nd MP Battalion, which was miserable for me because you're like, you can't touch any investigations. The warrant officers, they're like, okay, you're, they call them RLOs, real life officers. And it's not a term of endearment. But, at the end of the day is, we, protect the force, and, we, you should do it judiciously, and you should not, use your position, the 18-year-old private, don't confuse my authority with your rank type thing, or,
That's why I knew I would never make a good MP or a good.
Yeah.
I'd be Training Day. I'd be Denzel in Training Day. I'd be.
I love that movie.
I'd be so bad. I'd be like, "What'd you say to me?"
Hey,
Oh, taser
besides-
deployed.
I'm
Taser,
putting
taser.
pieces on all you motherfuckers. Sorry.
Yeah. Besides the having to, participate in the intake of THC, I had an MPI supervisor that ran me through that whole scenario. He was the best drug agent in Europe, and all these awards, but like, he was straight up Denzel, and
Yes.
he put me master interviewer, and but he he just had a way about him, and so many things in that movie that where you bring somebody down a path, and you get them a little dirty, and then he was a master at it, and just he taught me interviewing techniques, and he would come in there like Columbo and bumbling around, and you could see it in the guy's eyes, like, yeah, I'm smarter than this guy. 15 minutes later, he'd be confessing to everything. So
Stuff he didn't even do. Like, I
Yeah.
did that. I killed Kennedy. Like, what? You're only 18. I did it.
But there's a lot of talent in the MP Corps, and we're going through a tough time now. They've kind of downsized the MP Corps. It'll come back because we're going to go. It's inevitable. We're going to go back into conflict, and you need MPs to secure your lines of communication, critical sites. Keep order and discipline. But I was MP for 35 years, and I got to do some interesting stuff on the officer side. The ground liaison stuff. I worked in CID. I saw them kind of go the way of NCIS. So I had a lot of inside baseball. I was in the room when a 3-star told a 1-star that he's coming after the MP Corps. And I was at Mission Command Training Program, and really fought, on the protection side of the house. That's such a difficult warfighting function, because you're talking about protecting assets before you get to conflict, or even during conflict. And General Nell, I mean, she doesn't get the credit, but she figured that out. She was a general officer advocate, and ended up being the DCG for First ID, first female to do that. And just brilliant. But me as the Provost Marshall and protection chief, she gave me a lot of leadway. And then we did that last rotation to Europe, after February 24th. And it's a lot of strategic decisions that the public would never ever comprehend. And we had the right leaders in the right spot, and so proud of so they cut the MPs out. They didn't even have an MP battalion in theater, and we had to request them. And so it was just one of those administrative, okay, who do we cut? What MPs do? I don't know. And when you cut them, you know what they do, because
I'll tell you what the MPs do. They're dog handlers.
Yeah.
I like those guys.
Yeah, I do too.
I'm a fan of the dog handlers.
Sergeant Major O'Brien, long-term friend of mine, until I tried to exercise my freedom of speech, and I made some comments about the Secretary of War that I got a lot of calls from some senior leaders of like, hey, we can bring you back.
Let me shut my mouth. Don't bring me back. Please don't bring me back. I see a lot of stuff.
Yeah, like, okay. But, I just thought, like, I'm retired. I can say whatever the hell I want. Clearly I can't. But Mark Kelly's going through that right now too. But
yeah. That's some crazy stuff. I don't think Mark Kelly should have said the things he did, but I'm not trying to get into that with you. Here's my assessment. I was in the MPs for 10 years, and it was my favorite unit type that I ever served with. I've been with infantry, with combat engineers, hospitals, G staffs, brigade staffs, and a lot of time on battalion staff. And we've kind of talked about, you being in the room where it happens a lot, but that's on your administrative side when you're on staff. Kind of talk about some of the cool things that happened when you were either a platoon leader and or company commander and post on your deployments, and what that mission looked like.
Yeah. And again, nothing ruins a good war story like an eyewitness. But I had, the first, I went to Bosnia. I was a desk sergeant. I got out of the wire a couple times, worked a fatality in the zone of separation, stepping around landmines and all that. So that was the cool thing back then, that, that allowed you to be part of the VFW. And then of course, in 2003, I'm in Fort Sam Houston as an operations sergeant, and my former MPI chief is at Fort Riley in, the initial push, and he's sending about these photos, and I'm like, man, here I am, I'm not part of the fight. Of course, getting to Fort Campbell, it was absolutely great training. We get into theater. We're in Mosul. So our mission was to run the detention facility. And then we would train Iraqi police, and then we would fly detainees down to Abu Ghraib. So it was a very dynamic mission. And me and platoon sergeant got into it. So there was one platoon that was kind of the favorite platoon, and they were picked to go to Talifar for Operation Restoring Rights. An incident between me and the platoon sergeant over some Red Bull or something,
Yes, some rivets.
Yeah, rippets, get away from my rippets. And supposedly I had headbutted him.
You probably
deny
did.
that.
Supposedly, you like a guy that would headbutt somebody.
No. Innocent. But anyway, it caused this big thing. And next thing you know, my platoon is going to Talifar. Great mission. We fall up under 3rd ACR, and they don't look at branches. They're like, you're all Cav. And, you get to wear the cross sabers. And I mean, it was like wild, wild west. And
Literally.
yeah, we had a great mission. We, Operation Restoring Rights is where they walled off Talifar and gave, like, you got 72 hours. And if you're in here, you're a bad dude and we're coming after you. And so, we as the MPs kind of searched everybody coming out. And there's guys in, dresses and trying to, so we go and, with our Iraqi counterparts, identify HVTs. And so we just scoop these guys up, turn them in. But 3rd ACR is a quality unit and under HR McMaster. And most freedom I've ever had as a leader. And they're just like, here's your mission, here's your mission, your timeline, here's the end state, go do it. And that platoon, performed, well above. Matter of fact, the platoon that came in after us lasted 2 weeks, got relieved, and they had to bring in the whole MP company to secure that. But we just had a great relationship. We played well with others. We listened. We tried not to be the shiny object. But 3rd ACR was a great unit, and that deployment came back to Campbell. We ramped back up. Had a captain that was going to take HHD. He was in the queue, first in the queue, and he told Colonel Johnson that I'm not taking HHD. You're going to give me a line unit. And we know how that went. So I had this running joke with him that I would be his XO. I would do all the work, and he would shake hands and kiss babies. And so that was just a joke between. So then I did a sign that said Brookshire for HHD, and so Colonel Johnson, he never would come down, to the training room and, see a lieutenant. But he comes in one day and he sticks his head in and he sees the sign behind me. It says Brookshire for HHD. And he's like, hey, Nate, bring those safety notes to me. And I'm like, yes, sir. And I'm like, oh, man, this is not about safety notes. So I go into his office. He's like, have a seat, Nate. And he's like, tell me about this this campaign for HHD. And I'm like, sir, it was just a joke. He goes, oh, command's a joke to you. And then he just launches into me. And he goes, the last person elected to command? I'm like, no, sir. He's like, Abraham Lincoln. He's like, and you're no Abraham Lincoln. And I'm like, I am.
See him giving you this fight.
Oh.
Round face, bald, very muscular, fucking PT stud, probably looking over and.
Yeah. And he goes, keep your nose clean. 9 days, you'll take HHD and deploy them to this next rotation. And so he told that other captain, like, okay, Nate's taking HHD. So I'm a first lieutenant that takes the first command in queue, and then Mark Katz takes 561. Iman takes 551. Is that right, Ty?
Yeah, 551.
Yeah, and then Jesse Brewster takes 218th.
Right.
Jesse Brewster's probably going to be the next Provost Marshall General, in my opinion. But these are the guys, the caliber. And here I am, 31-year-old, first lieutenant, 32-year-old. And then we deployed to theater, and we have 9 companies. And so, I'm taking care of and doing HHD. It's, XO and S3 just beating me about the face and head. Lieutenant Colonel retired Lenz, then Major Lenz, and then Major Thompson was previous to him. Great leader. But they're field grades, so they're not going to listen to some young captain unless you play well with others. But saying all that, Colonel Johnson was about the mission, and he had these 9 commanders, and he's like, here's what I want done. And then he'd get pushback, and he'd be like, okay, give first platoon to Nate. And so I'm picking up platoons as an HHD, and then he says, Nate, I want you outside the wire. I want you guys up there. And I'm like, okay, how does, mechanic, pack clerk, commo, and, these are great soldiers. But we started doing some additional training, and about 2 weeks into it, and he's like, Nate, why aren't you outside the wire? I need you to partner with these police stations. And, it was like, okay, we got out there, and I was having a previous conversation with Ty, and these guys took it super serious. I mean, they were like, they weren't like, okay, this is foreign to me, and I don't want to die, and I'm going to listen. And they were spot on, and compared to other MP squads, man, I would go out with them, and I would go on, their trucks were immaculate. The maintenance was immaculate. They did rehearsals. They took it so serious as it should be. And we got some stuff done.
Yeah, that's one thing I'll say about HHD, the 0709. We knew it was a 15-monther going in. So like you said, Sergeant Major Palmer really stacked that deck. And then once you got that mission, that Frago to form the Thunder Squad, Doc Powell's in the comments, by the way.
Doc, what a man, outstanding. She served as a team leader. Mm-hmm. She treated over 1,000 Iraqis in this program that we had where we were bringing them in to train. And so she was operating well above her, she was just getting it done
above her pay grade and outside of her MOS.
Yeah. So
she was the best medic.
Best.
Yeah.
I had a great medic in 2005. I don't want to take anything from him, but Doc was something special. There's a picture out there of her changing a Humvee tire on Route Irish, I think, or one of those routes, and just getting after it, and I mean, I don't think she gets credit for it, but I'll tell you what, she delivered, and she was a go-to for the first sergeant and ops sergeant.
Shout out to Quentin Smith and Staff Sergeant David Rupp. Yep.
Rupp is the hardest working man in show business, man. This guy would work so hard that he would fall out of the chair, like pre-deployment. Like and of course, First Sergeant Smith Q rode him like a rented mule, and he got it done. And First Sergeant was a good First Sergeant. He took care of me. We had they called it the domestic in progress. Every 6 weeks, First Sergeant would get me. He'd want me to drop the F-bomb, and he wouldn't let it go until I did. He's like, "All right, sir, we'll do it." But we had a good time. He's a master blaster, Fort Bragg guy, but I think Ty probably has some PTSD from him, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I mean, we, like you talked about a domestic in progress. I mean, we were hellions for anyone that didn't toe the line. I mean, we had Robert Weinberger, which was one of the most Renaissance men. I think I don't even know what his MOS was. I think it was transportation.
88 Mike. He was an 88 Mike.
Yeah, but he would just do everything from building vertical. He could do plumbing. He was basically every MOS you wanted. He was a Pandora's box of MOS, and he was, it was amazing to serve with those people. But
Yeah.
you're right. Like I told the sergeant major no about something, or he said I said no, and he would lie it into me, and then just because he knew that's what got me going to get the mission done. That was the leadership I needed.
We can take a Alpha Charlie like nobody's business. I mean, and that's the culture that it was in. But and I'm not taking anything away from you're old when you're like, it's not the Army I was in, but like if you talk to soldiers the way we were talked to, like,
oh, bro.
Yeah. And as my last job was the command IG for Fort Riley and 1st Infantry Division. And I mean, some of the complaints, I'm not taking anything away, but you're like, oh, wow. Like maybe I should have went to the IG about 47,000 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was told, I mean, it's changed, but that's why I got out. Like I was going to re-enlist. I was up for orders. I was going to stay in and try to make 9. And I essentially had a captain. For us, the captain's a full bird. So I had a full bird sit down with me and tell me that my style of leadership and the way I approach things, like it's the new military and it's not welcomed essentially. And I explained to her, like I've led teams and led people in deployments and combat and all this, like I'm never going to change. And she pretty much straight up told me, like, if you're not willing to adapt or change the way you do business, then we don't have any room for you in the military anymore. And I was like, well, that kind of puts us in a bad spot. And she was like, what do you need from me? I said, well, if that's the case, I was honest. I can't change who I am. At the time I was 40, I was like, I am who I am. Like this is what you get. Like I never had a bad mark on my record. And she was just like, we're going to more of a civilian political kind of climate. Like it's just not your approach to leadership isn't what the military needs. And I was like, let me retire in 6 months. I don't even need a retirement ceremony. Just let me out the door then if that's the case. And she was like, granted. I was like, whoa. Like, I mean,
Al, you were teaching my grandson BRM at the age of like 9 months.
Hey,
get it down. Low profile.
Stay ready. You never got to get ready. But yeah, Nate, things have changed, brother. I mean, it's and here's the truth. I don't hold any ill will, right? I mean, they change for the better. And the 10 years, 20 years from now, there'll be some other guys saying, this ain't the military I joined. But I mean, they have things. People, that was my problem, is everybody that was coming in and all the E5s and E6s and everybody around me was just smarter than I was. I just knew this is how I do things. This is how I get business done. This is how we make mission happen and how we do things. And it just wasn't, it's not in the cards anymore. Right. So the old salts like myself, just my style just isn't conducive with the way the military is. And it's not, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think the writing was on the wall, right? Could I sign my LOI, sign the counseling essentially and just said, yes, ma'am, and stayed in? Probably, but I just wasn't, I'm not built that way. And I just wasn't built to do it. And I was like, you know what? And she even asked me, she's like, what are you going to do when you get out? You don't even have a plan. I said, I'll cut grass. Like that's the best I could do was like, I'll cut some grass. And she's like, go get your commanding officer, go get your XO, and go get your master chief. And I was like, so I walked out and they were like, I was like, come on, the captain needs to talk to you. And they were like, what did you do? I'm like, oh, it ain't good. And he thought I was kidding. And Mashi was like, stop playing, bro. I'm like, not a good situation. And but I mean, it is. Things have changed so rapidly.
And it'll come back. I mean, whether it's child abuse or whatever, my daughter's a staff sergeant, and she is knife handy. Like she was
raised by you.
She's tatted out, and like she will get in and crush you. And I remember
Melanie ain't no joke either. She's very stern as well. She's got that real dry.
I stand at attention.
Yes. Like I remember her personality is like all of her kids were like, hey.
Yep. All business. She and Rhiannon got a deployment under her belt. She actually found our mural that we painted in 07, 09. And so she's standing there in front of it. It's all faded. but she takes it very serious. She has no desire to be an officer. She is all about, non-commissioned officer and leading troops and taking care of troops. And but I remember like one deployment, she was 5, and I get back and I'm like, okay, I hadn't seen this little girl, and so let's go to the playground. And I said, okay, we're going to talk about risk management.
Yes.
And then we're going to set up a rock drill, and and then that's what she grew up. And she grew up at Campbell, watching me get ready for air assault school, or we'd go out to all the ceremonies, and a lot of them are basically memorials. And these I'd had a green minivan, and we roll up and we'd throw open the door, and they'd all jump out and scream air assault.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, that's cute.
Yeah. And I can tell you real quick.
How many kids you got?
And if they fell off, they'd do a proper PLF probably too.
Yes.
Yeah.
They know what want to contact.
We didn't really get to that a little bit, Nate, but I know you're married. How many kids?
So I have 8 children, 7 grandchildren. So
good night, man.
And,
you and Ty, bro, y'all are building
big
a
men do
football
big
team.
things, man.
Apparently,
people with our size brains, we need to procreate and get more of us out there.
The
I'm gonna
quiver
go
is
there. And
full.
I'm about to, when we get off this call, I'm going there and telling April we need to have a couple more. We need
We're up those numbers.
catch up with Nate.
Those
Those are rookie numbers. I got to get my numbers up.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm so proud of my family. Melanie. I met her in Germany. She was an exchange student. She took a chance on a young corporal, and this really, she's been kind of the brains of the operation the whole time. But we just, many deployments, not as many as Ty, but I think I racked it up total of 5 years. A couple of them operational, Bosnia, and this last one was a rotation. But just holding down the home front, and post-retirement, I mean, I didn't do a retirement ceremony. And, one of the reasons I didn't really push it is like, I would have a hard time them standing up there and talking about all this, stuff, and then not recognizing like, yeah, this wouldn't have happened without my family supporting me and being, a single mother or being without their father. We did, we had a quick like dinner or whatever. And, I'm looking there at Melanie, and she's like, I could just tell she's just done with it. I mean, like, there's a point to where you're like, you're asking too much. And, not that there would have been a path. I had a boss that had a pathway for me to do other things. And, I'm like, I want to go to the division. I love this division, 1st Infantry. And, I'd served with them in Bosnia, and I came back, and, it's just a storied division. And, it kind of, it made me a terminal lieutenant colonel, but man, I had some fun.
So so you mentioned post. So what was your transition like? What was it like transitioning out?
It was everything that they tell you to do. I did not do.
No, nice. Me neither.
Yeah. I from CIF, from like TAP, I didn't do TAP. I told the guys, like, so what happens if I don't do it?
Are they not going to let me out? You're like, you're getting out. You're out.
So little known fact, my retirement was disapproved. Yeah. So
multiple times, right?
Yeah, no, just the once. And I said, I tried to retire in lieu of medical board, and they said, hey, you owe us another 2 years on this job because you signed an ADSO. And I said, my health was failing. Thankful to the Army to exposing me to. I took it lightly as far as the burn pits, but that's no joke. And so I started deteriorating, and I'm sitting in the command IG slot, and I'm like, if I can't be a soldier, I don't need. So the timing worked out perfect. Just as I was crumbling down, I went on terminal leave. Nice. And so I kept, fake it till you make it. But I was still getting after it, and I'm like, I'm having breathing problems. My pulse ox is down to 90. I'm not using my CPAP, and I had a great team up there, and again, I've always been blessed with wonderful senior NCOs. Kudos to Master Sergeant Beyer and my deputy Rick Parham. But the medical retirement came about in 93 days, and here I am. I did not do any transition. I just landed in the middle of small town America, and started trying to figure it out.
How long you been out in total? How many days have it been? Or how
Since
long?
September last year.
Okay.
So yeah, September. So I applied for a couple jobs. I got a job with MCTP, and then I turned it down because it's traveling and being away from my family. My buddy Will Coulter got me a C-suite level interview that I knew I wasn't qualified. Probably should have been a GO. But I went through the interview. Man, it was going so well. And then at the end, she goes like, why are you passionate about working for Panasonic? And I said,
I'm not.
I said, because you're going to pay me a lot of money. And it's like, and so, no, actually, my employment right now, I drive a shuttle for a local dealership on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Yeah.
I just drive around. I pick up, whoever, I hear their story, and
Well, if you're ever looking for anything in the corporate investigation world, I know a guy.
I
may have some stuff right now.
Yeah, I loved investigations, and I just turn into Rain Man when it comes to investigations. I did a year-long investigation my last year as a Provost Marshall, as a 15-6, and I get into the zone. It's just like your typical, like, I don't know, maybe it's OCD or ADHD or something like that, but it's like I start like seeing all the puzzle pieces coming together. But
yeah, well, I'll have to have Ty. Ty, you have to give me his number, because I'm going to give him my best elevator pitch. I won't talk about I don't talk about where I work on our podcast, because I don't want to get fired. But
yeah,
it's military related. It's military related.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'm really involved with a couple agencies. Ty probably talked about, I don't say agencies, but nonprofits. Freedom Sings. I hope that I can get you guys out to the golf tournament in September this year.
In Kentucky?
No, it's in Chattanooga.
Oh, let's go.
Yeah, so
anytime I can leave Florida, I'm all about it. Let's go.
Well, here's the thing: is it's right there with the Medal of Honor Society.
Yep.
And so they're linked in with those guys. They were a big part of getting Captain Larry Taylor's award moved from the Silver Star to the Medal of Honor. So that's a whole story in itself. But they're just great people. I thought it was kind of touchy-feely, and I dialed in, and there's like 40 people on the Zoom, Korean War vets, Vietnam vets, Cold War vets, and they're like, hey, let's just have a conversation. And I'm like, I kind of talked about the book and how that came about, and man, 6 weeks later we had a song, and on Memorial Day, that Friday before Memorial Day, they had a rising Nashville singer come in and cut it, produced it, released it, and gave me songwriting credits, along with two other. So it was a great, and but those just wonderful people, and that's what these, and you name your nonprofit. It's really the grassroots ones that really get after it and make a difference, because they expect you to show up in their community, and they're going to call you when you're like you've disappeared. They'll check in with you.
Well, Nate, you touched on it a little bit, but I want to talk about your book. So you kind of touched on it, but we really didn't talk about it. But let's talk about your book. Okay. You said you're not very bright, but apparently you can write. You can write well now. Your wife changed you. You didn't write the whole book in caps, I'm assuming.
Well, Thank God for a great editor, Helena Kaufman, and Melanie too. Melanie, man, right before deployment, she stayed up 24 hours, and she's like, "Did you like this comma here?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Like, I just put a comma in there." It's
Bro, that's what we do. We just, if I don't know what goes there, it's got to be a comma, like semicolon, comma, boom, done.
She's like, "It's a dangling participle." I'm like, why are you calling me names? So this book came about. So I was in OCS, and my roommate was Marius Tequanta, Romanian, came in the army as a fueler, and then went to OCS. And so this guy speaks 5 languages, is just a photographic memory of military history. So we're in there, and we're, a little prison-like environment, but we're reading Killer Angels, which is really dry. And he's in a strong, Transylvanian accent, is like, we can do better than this. And he goes, so I'm the top bunk, he's the bottom bunk, and he'd say like Tet 68 and just like rattle off everything about Tet 68. And so we started talking, and we said, okay, I'll write the American soldier and you write the German soldier, and then we'll just go back and forth. And so this was like a 45-day conversation. And he goes, we need to write this book. 5 years goes by, and he shows up at Fort Jackson, and he's like, you said you would write this book. And so I was TDY a lot. And so I would write a chapter, he would write a chapter, I'd write a chapter, and we're just pinging back and forth. And we actually write this book in 90 days. And so he's like, what do we do with it now? And the only author that I had never been in contact with was Kevin Hogan. He's like 19 books, Science of Influence, So I email him because I'd been in contact with him. I just gave him some feedback on a book I'd read, and he responded. And he says, hey, we got a conference in Vegas. Fly out. I'll comp your hotel room. I'll comp all the fees, and you pitch the book. And we're like, sure. And we went out there. We sat through the conference, and then we got brought in a room and pitched the book. And he says, find an editor and I'll publish it. And he did, and hit number 10 on Amazon. It's been a calling card for the nonprofit. I did kind of get in a back and forth with the publisher over movie rights, so we decided to do a docuseries or documentary based on the nonprofits. And Nicole Emilio Casper, has been working on that for 5 years, and it comes out this fall. So it's turned in from a documentary to a docuseries. So it's been a heck of a ride with that. And it's held at 4.9 on Amazon for 10 years. So.
Yeah, I've got we've had Nicole on the show. She talked about it extensively. We got the Emilio Media there. You can go check all that out. She's got the Veteran Basketball League, doing a lot of great things. And I remember hearing you tell this story. We'll get into some of that, some of our phone calls later. But I just want to tell you before we go any further, just hearing the names you're talking about, all those great NCO leaders, all those great officers, this is something that really helps. So being able to talk, Al always says, check in, call somebody. Being able to talk to some of these people that were part of the Thunder Squad. I keep in fairly close social media contact with Doc Powell. Daniels has been texting me, all those knock around guys.
Oh, yeah.
I talked to First Sergeant the other day. I talk to Woodring quite often because, those guys, those men that I just said, and women, my first SIGO when I got to Fort Campbell was Cynthia Cooper, and then she went off to do something in the FBI. Like, we had some absolute stars, but hearing your stories, like, you're absolutely right. You were a cool ass commander because Sergeant First Class, almost the same type of inquisitive. Once you give me something, I want to know everything about you. And you were that kind of commander. I was like that with my knockaround guys, and I wanted to know what was going on. But I think that's probably why I love your stories. I love where you're going. But by all means, let's finish up your transition, because we've only told about 1/3 of the stories you could tell.
Yeah, I didn't plan well. I landed, I'm super involved with, you know, scouting. We have, you know, and I would love to take credit, but these kids really got after it. So we have Megan, who was one of the first female Eagle Scouts, and then followed by Josh, Ben, and Dylan, and then we have Maddie, who's um, coming up. She's in scouting too. So we got 4 Eagle Scouts. They've done a lot for the community. Um, I'm involved in like district level leadership, um, but it's a citizenship program, and it's also character driven. We're bringing it to the small town. We're bringing the executive in, so that's a part of what we do as a family. I know some families are in traveling sports, but scouting's been a forcing function. Like you know, in the Army, you're not wild about going camping and stuff, but I go to summer camp every year. I get mentored by some senior scout leaders, and I get to spend time with my boys. And this year, I'll get to go to camp with my daughter. But we're trying to stand up a venture crew here in Junction City. Venture crew is kind of the advanced scouting, where they do a little bit more high end stuff. But it's been a big part of our lives, and just trying to figure it out. But I think if I could give some advice to somebody, is like, they're giving you the answers to the test, and so don't negate the fact that 2 years out you should be. And here's been my thing with any soldier that I had who was retiring. I would be like, take care of your family, take care of yourself, don't work to the last minute. And like everything that I advised them to do, I did not do. And it's the irony there is pretty rich.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, Al, before we get into the hot seat, Doc says she's got okay, here we go.
Oh.
She's got a question for you. So we got a question from the Triple Threat Vet Platoon. Why Thunder Squad was successful? Every rock drill, you always have the inherent right to defend yourself, and I will always have your back. That's Company Commander CO Nathan Brookshire. So all those soldiers knew you had their back, because maybe that speaks to you being enlisted before, but knowing their drill, knowing outside their MOS, like what they did was pretty fucking cool. And I thought it was cool that one of the soldiers from the S6 shop, Mike Daniels, is a part of that as well, being a former combat engineer. So
I talked to him today. I talked to him today, and he was a young sergeant, and we needed a squad leader, and we put him in the seat, and we had some guardrails on there, but he stepped up, and I think he received a Bronze Star for that too. So
I'm pretty sure he did. And I mean, he not only was he switching from his combat arms MOS of combat engineer, he came over to be a 25 uniform, and so we were putting him through the paces with a lot of technical shit. TAC SAT. I was the EWO. We had another Navy EWO, and we were dealing with some pretty cool communications gear. And then he had to also revert back to what he had done before.
Yeah,
so
I think we aged that young man about 5 to 10 years. But no, he stepped up, and he gathered trust. I mean, he was leading MPs, and I mean, they're not hard. I mean, if you're Sergeant Rupp was a great squad leader, but we kind of burnt him in. Like, I've never asked, we asked so much of him, and he just got to the point to where he had to go back, take some R&R, and we needed somebody to fill his seat. And I think you and I in the first sergeant had a conversation, and we're like, yeah, he's the right guy for the job, and he delivered.
Yeah, he was the first name to come to mind if you needed somebody to do that. And that was everybody on staff though. Like we had some some support MOSs that could really step in and do what needed. So when people talk about, low density MOSs not being really, in it, and everybody gets talking about a POG, really on our side of the Fort Campbell, down Wickham, there wasn't no POG shit going on. You know what I'm saying? Like we were training and then our soldiers were trying to take all the 5th groups, airborne slots, MPs have their hands everywhere.
I feel as a training officer, I love the fact that we cracked the code that they had 10 to 15 extra airborne slots, and we would just get their medical packets together, and they're like, oh yeah, we happen to have 15 people that can go to airborne school or Pathfinder or, Ranger school. And then, that classic little lady with the tennis shoes at division. I had a company commander, like she was married to a Ranger. And so they, called around to get some Ranger slots. And me as the training officer, she's like, hey, sweetie, come see me. And I'm like, oh, yes, ma'am. And I go up there and she looks at me and she's like, see that colonel over there? I sent him to Ranger school. She goes, if you ever backdoor me again, she's like, you're not even getting field sanitation. I'm like, yes, ma'am. Yeah. So, but we started getting Ranger slots and we started getting airborne slots, Pathfinder slots. Yeah.
Yeah. I loved everything that I learned. You had to be resilient. You had to know more than just your job. You had to know what the mission was. And I think, I can talk about it now in hindsight, but the epitome of what, in my experience, the epitome of what top down, bottom up leadership was the 716th during that time.
Yeah.
I mean, we had some shit that goes on, maybe some people got pissed off every now and then. That's fine. But for the most part, we were some pretty awesome soldiers.
I just think that, sometimes that, you land in like a special place, and it's just one of those things is, I could have ended up at, some other duty station and my career would have taken a completely different path. But, just to be around, some top-notch warriors and, people that just speak truth to power, and they're not afraid, I got platoon sergeant. Do you remember who the first platoon sergeant was? Becca's platoon sergeant?
For which company?
For 194. Started with a W.
Yeah, Watson. No.
Nope.
Yeah, George.
Yeah. But he told me, he goes, Lieutenant. He goes, you know what you're like? And I said, no, Sergeant, what am I like? He goes, you're like a third nipple. He goes, fun to look at, but absolutely useless.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm like, and so when I'm a commander, he's still, but he comes up to me and I said, hey, hey, Sergeant, I came up with my call sign, for command. And he's like, what is that? And I said, third nipple 6.
Third nipple 6.
And he was like, oh my God. But, I love those guys. So.
I have his number. It's Weaver. I can't.
Weaver. Yeah.
Leave a lot.
Shout out to Sergeant Weaver.
It was W.
He is going to cringe when he's like, because, I mean, he is a very, I mean, he mentored Becca Beard, who became an outstanding battalion commander, and she's going to be a full colonel. But, he just, we were, we just, those senior NCOs shaped us, and, they made us, realize, soldier mission, and it just affected us through our whole career.
Yeah, for sure. That kind of leads into the first question. All right, this is we're officially in the hot seat now, sir.
All right.
So I want you to tell me what the motto for, the HHD 716th Knives Out. I want you to tell me what that means to you.
Okay. So with our guys, just tell me, I got thick skin. Just tell me what you got to tell me, and keep the knives out. Don't shine me on and bleed me out. Just keep the knives out, and we'll be all right.
Absolutely. I loved being the 716th, but some of those later deployments where you're looking at what the mission and goes on and seeing from a command level, platoon sergeant, seeing all that work, that was amazing. All right, do you have any good sniper in the Balkan stories?
Oh yeah, so yeah, I was a desk sergeant in Tuzla, Maine, with First ID, and then we had a presidential visit, and some of our guys were doing the security, so I wanted to be a part of it. So I went down there and talked to the platoon leader, and I said, hey, I'm not doing anything, I'm off shift, can I help out? He's like, yeah, just stand at this back door, and just make sure that no one has their they have to take their rifle apart before they come in. The bolt, they had to take the bolt out of it. And you just check it. And so President Clinton's there, Hillary Clinton, Chelsea, and then there's Togo West is there. And so he gives a speech, and so he has to come out the back. And so I'm like, oh, this is like, my one chance to meet a president. And so Hillary comes by, somebody snaps a photo, and then, President Clinton's there, and I just kind of stand in front of him and shake his hand, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And but the next day was supposedly when all the sniper stuff happened in Sarajevo. So I don't want to say too much because like the track record, I wish I could find that photo of me and Hillary Clinton. It's quite interesting, and you get to see a young staff sergeant Brookshire. Yeah.
I've seen the photo. I remember seeing it. I'll have to go back and look as well. But that kind of moves to the next question here. Like I told you that we were going to ask about the telephone calls that you and I have, but I kind of want to expand that to what does it mean to you to be able to reach out and touch some of these people and talk, and how has that helped you in your transition? Telephone calls. Because here's what I'll tell you. The telephone calls you and I have, you're like fucking motivational speeches of things that you're doing for your community. So this is your chance right now. Wax poetic about that.
Well, the thing about it is like, you can post something on Facebook at 3:00 in the morning and tell them you need help. And like, it might be crickets, but in our community, like if I called Ty up and said, hey, I need you to fly to Vegas and bring a shovel, I mean, he's like, I'm on the flight. But people hit dark spots, and for me, there's no bigger honor that a young soldier that's now in their 40s will call me up and say, hey, I want to talk. And like, hey, I saw you post something weird to Facebook, what's going on? And so it's a back and forth. It's not about rank, it's about like, okay, this is my family. And it's so heartwarming to know that we have a team for life. And some slip through the cracks, and there's bad days. October 16th comes up, and man, the pain of 716th is still there. The loss of that battalion commander and 3 young soldiers. So, but yeah, that's the point. Is like, I have no doubt that when we went to Sergeant Cribben's funeral, and saw Doc, I saw you, and like we talked to the parents, and we didn't, we came there with like, this is our brother. This is somebody that is dear to our hearts, and all these Gold Star families that come up online, they want us to continue talking about their sons and daughters, and we do, because that's who we are.
Absolutely. I got a picture I'm going to show you here in just a second, but I'll go ahead and move to the next question. What's the most unique place on earth you've ever visited?
The most unique place on earth that I've ever visited.
Mm-hmm.
Probably Japan.
And what was about Japan?
It's just so clean. I mean, and plus, I'm not a little guy, so it was like I'm, walking the streets as Godzilla. Yeah. So I can tell you, I'm a huge Bill Murray fan. I mean, to the point of where it's actually awkward. Because I love that guy. And there's a movie called Lost in Translation. Have you seen that?
Oh, absolutely.
So there's a scene that they're in Tokyo. He's there, pitching Centauri whiskey. I think it's Scarlett Johansson that's in the movie. Is that true?
Yep.
All right. So he goes into the bar, and he walks up the bar, and there's this cityscape behind him, jazz singer. I mean, it's just a beautiful movie. And so we're flying into Tokyo. The plane gets delayed, and somehow we end up, staying the night in Tokyo. And so I get everybody settled in as the ops officer, and I'm like beelining, like, take me to the Park City Hotel or whatever it's called. And I roll in there, and the bartender looks at me, and he's there like cleaning the glass as you see in the movies. And he goes, and he knew, he's like, I go up there and he's like, yeah, I can see it in your face. And I look back, there's the jazz singer and the cityscape, the exact scene from the movie.
And do you ever wonder what he whispers to her at the end?
I don't know.
I don't either.
Figure that out.
But yeah, I love Bill Murray.
Yeah,
Cinderella story.
Yeah. It's he's just a unique character, and I'm waiting for the shoe to drop because there's always you don't get too close to your hero, so and that's a true fact. Like you put these people on pedestals and you meet them, and but I'd still love. I would take the opportunity to meet Bill Murray. So Bill Murray, if you're watching this, give me a call.
Absolutely. That's it. Kind of leads to the next question as well. Talk to me about your military hero, that leader that just stands out in your brain and you learn so much from. Exploit it.
Okay. I have a couple. I'd say Mark Kolasnik's one of them. He did some counseling with me on top of a Connex in the middle of Missoula, and he gave me some very sage advice. It's I would say Sergeant Major Palmer. He really set me up for success and mentored me. But there's so many. There's so many. Colonel Rambo. I know that sounds fake, but I had an MCTP boss named Colonel Chuck Rambo, and he was just a great family man, and we traveled the world together, and he made me his chief of operations. And he's like, he would sit there, he's an aviation guy, but I'm briefing him, he's like, I can't believe I'm sitting here being briefed by an MP. And then he would take my my ID tag, that was on the little string, and he'd go, when I grow up, I want to be a real boy. And he was just always like, funny, and he had this thing of like, hey, I just want to be Chuck. And he goes, until you want to see Colonel Rambo. And only got to see a little bit of Colonel Rambo when transportation met up, and he was supposed to meet with a 3-star, but we got it fixed. Unfortunately, he passed away during COVID. 52 years old, large family, and just he was so close to, because he's like, I just want to retire and I just want to be Chuck. I want to coach my kids in baseball, but just a great reputation, war fighter. But there's so many. But I would say, between the senior NCOs I've had and Colonel Rambo, that would definitely be the guy that I'd have to model after. But hey, tomorrow's not promised, and he lived a full life.
Airborne. some of those names are people that are on my Mount Rushmore as well. Mark
Sergeant Major
Halasnik.
Woodring.
Yeah, Sergeant Major Woodring, Mark Halasnik, Quentin Smith we talked about.
Yeah.
Gary McClellan. Like Gary McClellan was after Quentin Smith. He was an outstanding.
He saved my bacon too over a $45,000 Duke that disappeared. He found that sucker.
But McClellan was the first sergeant when the dagger went missing.
Oh yeah.
118-999. What's up, knock around guys? If you're watching.
Yeah.
So we lost the dagger, and we had the extra duty for basically everybody that was on the Hanner seat. I think I was already halfway checked out of the unit at this point. That other sergeant first class was there, but we were doing extra duty together because we were the knockaround guys. And McClellan was pissed that he had to be there for some reason. He was yelling, and then at this point I think I had a sequence number or something, so I thought I was hot shit, and I was like, well, yeah, let's go fucking fight. And he comes at me from across that supply area. I've never told this story, and I don't think none of the guys have either. He comes across me and trips over a lawnmower, and he almost like eats his face, and I catch him. And he looks at me. We look at each other for a split second, and he's like, okay, we're not going to fight. But he was coming for me.
Yeah.
I don't know why he was so angry, but that's the way it was.
I have to reach out to him. I wonder what he's up to nowadays.
I wonder too. I need to get him on to tell the rest of that story because I don't know what was going on. He was mad at me though. All right, next question. What drives you in life these days, sir?
Really just trying to, find a mission. I've found some things that really, but just trying to reconnect with my family, trying to recognize that, all that time away, they paid a heavy price for it, but just honoring their sacrifice and, not trying to, with health issues and stuff, we had a recent, I don't know if you, saw that, but our neighbor's house caught on fire and our house almost caught on fire. And I, out there, Melanie actually, Melanie and Josh, were out there with the rakes and stuff, but it was a pretty traumatic event for everybody.
Yeah, this is literally a phone call that you and I have. I'm like, hey, you ready for the show, in a couple of weeks? And you're like, yeah, but I'm in the hospital right now, and I'm like, what the hell? And he's like, lung stuff. And I'm like, what? And then it turns out you're fucking fighting community fires. Yeah, I mean, that's what regular telephone call is when we talk to each other.
Yeah, and then, it wasn't classified as a heart attack, but they said it was a cardiac event. So I need to take better care of myself because, Secretary of War, no beardos, no fatties, and so I'm violating both of them.
That's right. Yeah, me too. But hey, it's all right here. I can get back there if I get the call.
Yeah.
All right. Is there anything that keeps you up at night, sir?
Yeah, just absolutely. Just where we're going. As far as, I try to stay out of politics. But man, this is such a divisive place that we're in. And I see it, I want to focus on like local community. But I mean, it's just there's people that are so polarized and, and I in the Army, we don't really see a lot of racism. We may brush up against it, but like in these environments where you have people that are, I just like can't believe. I had one guy, we were, picking up some furniture, and he just made this most racist comment that and I'm like, what do I do with that? And like he saw the look on my face, and I was like, so I don't know. I'm struggling with the transition to, dealing with people that really their core values are kind of wonky. Their ethos is kind of wonky, and, their word is not their word, and it's very transactional. So it keeps me up at night is like, all the leadership skills that I had in the Army, I have to retune those, and it's just being a good father to my children, being a decent husband, but Melanie has served. We've been married 31 years, and I'm just reflecting on all those times where I'm like, let's go, let's deploy, and then when my daughter deployed, I got a little taste of what it feels like, like thinking of, hey, I have a loved one in danger. And so I'm that crow is coming back and it's getting buttered up. So that's kind of where I'm at on that.
Yeah, it's crazy what we get used to, but the call tree works very well, especially with the 7/16th. And I know I've probably said some outlandish shit to you because my transition was very difficult. So being able to talk to people like you, Woodring, Quentin Smith, to tell me, he's the one that kind of really came on the show and said, identity versus ideology. You got to get out of that and create your own new persona.
That was a great interview. I mean,
he's very insightful.
Yeah, and it seemed like he had been through the fire on it. So, and he came out on the other side of like, hey, here's some feedback that I can give you that you can employ right away. I've talked to him on the phone for a couple times, and I think he's running Mr. Appliance. He's got 3 stores, and he's using his leadership abilities to be successful in that. But
I was going to a storage the other day for the Gator, the local swim team that I work with, and I called him. I was like, I bounced something off him. How do you feel about this? I mean, this dude he told me, took an early day. I was like, must be nice to be able to take the days off. But here's what I tell you: when I have conversations with him, he always has to be number one. So I think all 3 of his different franchises, they're number one in Augusta, and then I think he's got one in South Carolina. But everything he does, he is so down to the detail, and those are the kind of shit that just rubbed off on all of us.
When I got a contact from a guy, they do these franchises, and they're like, hey, here's choose your franchise, and I it's a LinkedIn, and I'm interested, but he pitched Mr. Appliance, and you know what? On slide number 1, there's First Arm, veteran owned and number 1 guy, and I was like, that's cool.
Yeah, he's sends me pictures of his awards, as he's sitting next to everything that he does, he's going to be a success at.
Yeah. So. Yeah, and he weathered the storm. I mean, he's had ups and downs like us all, but he's very reflective, and he's a sensitive guy. I mean, like at the end of the day, he if you come after him, he takes that pretty serious. So I mean, I just being commander and first sergeant, that time, we not my best moment, but we're going to PT, and he changes it up from a long slow run to sprints, and Colonel Delata would be like, hey, training schedule, that's a contract between you and the soldier, and you and me, and don't violate it. And so I'm like, First Sergeant, we're sticking to the training calendar. And he's like, sir, I run PT. And so we got into it, and not my brightest moment, but I was like, First Sergeant, I want you to go ahead and get a parade rest. And then I commenced sharing some of his expletives, and he took it. And then later on, I think you and him came in my office, and you're like, you can't do that. That's, you can't do that. We can't do that in front of our soldiers. And it's, and you and him, I mean, I think you actually sat down and we had a long conversation about it, but that, the teachable moments.
Well, that's the thing too, is that so many of us had deployed with each other so many times. Like we deployed in Kosovo in 2001 when he was still at 82nd. I think he was in the 21st MP. So we had so much history that sometimes things got heated verbally,
Yeah. And we got to always recover from it. I mean, that's not the case. And a lot of times is like you had that blow up and then, you're holding it against that person. But I mean, elite units can, do a hot wash and, be straightforward. And, that's what I learned from Colonel Delata too, is like, hey, I'm going to give it to you straight. And you're just going to have to take it. And, we got scuffed up a lot of times, but, most of the time we deserved it.
Well, sir, I appreciate your answers. I asked you to do. I kind of told you some of how we were going to do it, and I knew this hot seat was going to be different because when you get us together, we just start talking. So let me stick to the script here real quick.
All right.
Here's an easier one for you. First concert, best concert.
Oh wow! God, first concert, best concert. First concert was Pink Floyd.
Mm.
Yeah, and I think the best concert was Tyler Childers.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine Pink Floyd being my first concert. How old were you when that happened?
16.
16, Pink Floyd. Holy cow.
Yeah.
That's pretty intense.
Yeah.
And then, so the best concert again?
Tyler Childers.
And then when was this?
A couple of years ago. Melanie had got tickets a year out. I think I was, post deployment, we went there to Kansas City, and he's definitely a talented artist.
Yeah. So this is the kind of the last part of this question. Then we'll get into the big question everybody wants to know. But I think I told you when I was going to start this podcast, and it may be blending over the years, but what I do know is that some of the questions I ask are definitely because of you. A lot of these psychological questions where you really get to know how your people think, but kind of talk about I don't want to say talk about our phone calls again, because I've talked about that, but talk about that relationship and how some of those things just click. Why do you think we get along so well?
Well, I mean, from the beginning, like, I don't think that you're very comfortable with talking to the person, not the rank. And you have a very high bar on, you call DS very quickly. And so to even be in the wheelhouse, because you can't not be sincere. And so, like, we had some very open conversations. Who's our guy? Fight, who's
J. Alberto Fight.
Yeah, brilliant guy. Is done well. He's a psychotherapist now. And back in the day, you were kind of a protector over him, and you saw the value in his expertise. And look at him now. I mean, but he needed advocates like you. But I think that's the reason we can be real with each other. We can have unvarnished truth, and kind of the mask goes off. And I try to be what you see is what you get. Melanie would probably say a little bit different than that, because she's a truth teller. But I think we care for people, and I think our heart's in the right place. Just at the end of the day, is I have a heart for soldiers, and that's why we connected, because you and I will take a hit for a soldier, and you can't, at the end of the day, is that's what they want. They want somebody to be in their corner when the fit hits the shan.
Thanks for censoring yourself, sir. Yeah. I say all that to say this. Like, we talked about the podcast, that we were going to have it, and just what you talked about was exemplified by all the other people. So when I ask these questions, it's really so because we were all deployed so many times, we can share. Like, for me, it's gratefulness. Everyone took a chance on me because I was always a big dude, but I did the job. So I got promoted with Sergeant Major Marty from G1, to Sergeant First Class or a sequence number without even having been to WLC. And it's because of commanders and first sergeants and, BCs and command sergeant majors looking out for me because I loved doing the job. So when I met someone else like you that actually psychoanalyzed everyone when they met them, it makes me, me neither. It's crazy. Al's seen the angry Ty, and then most of the time he's seen, the real calm Ty. But we were doing a baseball game, and I think it's the biggest fit of probably rage that I'd ever had post-military. Because we were in the press box and they didn't have our podcast right, and I was just pissed off for just no reason. And Al was looking at me like, he was worried about me. And this is when he's first meeting me. So we had a guy come on last week. I call him, he's like a Jedi master. He's a philosopher. Ramon Martinez. He's the Scouting America Ranger in Arizona. He says if you act like a mean ass veteran and have a closed off face and don't let anybody approach you, then nobody's going to. But what I do is I wear bright clothes and I try to be goofy as hell with people just to have fun. And every conversation with you is, oh, I went out and I made contact with this, and oh, I'm getting these people employed that are veterans or homeless, and those are the stories that I hear from you. Woodring's got a battle scar apparel. He takes care of his family, and then of course here's the picture I wanted to show you. So this is the Cribbins' parents. Oh, wow. So I got the chance earlier last year to go to the Air Force Army when it was at the Air Force Academy. So I let them know we were going, and Berto met us there because he lives in Albuquerque, New Mexico now, working. And then, of course, Cribbins' parents were there. So this was watching Game 7 of the World Series this past year. They ended up kicking us out of the bar, so we went and got a little sleep and ended up turning into breakfast. And
oh wow!
So just the bond, this Gold Star family.
I'm sure Berto was of great value to them, in that conversation. So yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean he's talked to him hundreds of times. He's like family. I think he stayed with them. So those bonds that Cribbin, just because he was so amazing. There's so many stories we could tell about Cribbin, and I think soon we're going to be. But yeah,
it's and then the beer named Too Easy Stevie. That's that actually is a really good beer. I mean, so it did him right. So
yeah, I can't get a full one, but I know Joe is sending me an empty one, and I think he's sending somebody else some too. But yeah, we may have something coming out pretty soon. I don't know when. Daddy James Barbecue Sauce, James McCombs, former veteran, former guest on the show. He's got a product coming out that's going to memorialize Cribbin, and it's the new coffee, but I don't know when it's going to come out or what it's called.
Yeah, I'm just the more that we say his name, and the more that we share memories, and his children are watching this, and it's something that to leave that amount of legacy. And we knew him as a Sergeant E5, and he was outstanding. Just imagine the Special Forces community and Cribbin that they worked with. I mean, we saw that in him back then. And Dusty Rudd out there, so he mentored a lot of young soldiers and made them into warfighters.
Yeah, those warfighter teams that competed, and I think won first and second, and maybe their alternate could have probably won third.
Yeah, Sergeant Major Palmer stacked the deck there. He ran two teams and came in first and second.
Yeah. The Palmer has made a lot of rule changes just because of winning. That's what he does. Winning. All right, sir. Last question: who's the greatest of all time, Michael Jackson or Prince?
Prince.
All right. Why?
I mean, the Super Bowl. Remember that? Like, the guys out there. Oh man, that guy's a genius. There's like thousands of songs that haven't been published, and the guy could play like 26 instruments. So, I mean, Prince all day long.
Well, it's it's a contentious, but I think as it would be, it seems like people like you and I really like Prince. Let me ask you something. Can you dance?
I used to dance a lot. I used to, and then I had this classic move where I do this, and then Melanie's 5'2" and I'm 6'3", was closer to 6'4", and so I thought I had better dancing skills, and after meeting Melanie, I kind of realized that maybe I don't.
Yeah, I only asked because I can't dance at all, so I would get way into the genius of him playing all those sports, because there's no way that I was ever going to be able to dance like Michael Jackson. I mean, I don't think anybody in the world at that time, and probably people today, studied it forever and they can dance like him. He was the first to ever dance like that, and I got to see that growing up. That's crazy.
Did you ever see with the Prince where he like the guitar something? He's with Tom Petty.
Oh yeah, While My Guitar Gently Weeps, the solo.
That sums up Prince right there. Like,
oh yeah,
that guy he just like, hey, watch this, and just throws that guitar up in the air and like out. I mean, yeah.
I agree, Prince, definitely. All right, so last question, AAR, what is it that we can do to make our podcast better? And then I actually have feedback for you.
Okay. I think you guys have hit on something. I think you're building a lot of content. I think as far as, I just don't know what the next level is, whether it's, you do more than a weekly, but I think that, the way that you guys have a conversation, that you share, your experiences, then you bring a variety of people on. So that's all positive feedback. The negative of it is, I just think that there's a wider audience out there for you, and I just don't know how you get that, and so whether it's, showing up to some of these bigger events like Freedom Fest in July and coming down in here and doing a podcast, or hint, or being involved with Freedom Sings. So yeah, all these are backhanded, so but no, I think you're on the right track. I really think that these conversations, and it's documented, so like 10 years from now, I picked up a retired command sergeant major, he's in his 70s, and we had crossed paths in Iraq, in 2007. So we were in the same units. They were the base security for Camp Victory, and I'm looking at this guy that's 20 years on, and he's looking at me like a young whippersnapper. But it's that, just telling that story, and he talked the whole time of like his experience and what Camp Victory was and Z Lake and all that. And I'm like, okay, we chewed the same dirt, so it's important to document these narratives, whether they're 100% true or not.
Absolutely. So we are trying to get mobile, and I don't think this is any secret at this point. Like a lot of the ideas I bounce off of you for the show, but like some of the people that you've given to us, like Nicole mentored and still talks to me about production and getting how you're going to get there, and then some of the other people that I've had on the show that Matt now got to interact with, these are people from my past, and they know my story. They know I didn't have a lot of people with the Cobb name in my life, so the people that I met along the way are family, and you're definitely family. So thank you for sharing all that. Hopefully we can make it out to one of the events. It looks like Al is having internet issues, or maybe it was too late for him. He had to go say goodnight to Kenzie. So sorry about that, Al, if we went too long, brother. All
right. Hey, like you said, we could have this conversation for 6-8 hours. But I hope we didn't leave anybody out, as far as, recognizing. I know my battle buddy there, EJ Kesselring, is full colonel now too.
Is EJ Kesselring in the comments?
No, but I know
Okay,
he's
yeah, I know EJ Kesselring. He was I knew him
yeah,
as lieutenant.
yeah, and it amazes me. I mean, like what a miracle. And Colonel Delata, I mean, I bet I can't even imagine the conversation between them two, but he's doing well. He's over there in User and then Becca Beard and all them. But I mean, there's so many names out there. But
Here's a name from the past, Weiner, who was in the motor pool.
oh
He says,
yeah,
Sergeant Smith for me had my back and was the best first sergeant he ever had. Hell, 716th was the best NCO and officers that he ever served with.
yeah, yeah.
And then Trav Manship, you know, I remember
Manship.
Manship. Yeah, he was a
Oh,
man child. Like
he
fucking
he. My back went out before that deployment. I shouldn't have deployed, but he gave me his TENS device. Um, and so like I was getting electrocuted by this thing. Just I couldn't even, hardly stand up. But that I know he went on and did multiple deployments, and just such a. I think he is a specialist at a time, but he took care of me. I mean, he was like, "You're my commander, and I'm going to help you out any way I can." So I have a deep affection for Manship. So
Yeah, I always loved his let's see, carrying you onto the helicopter on training was brutal.
hey, I'm not a little man. I'm not, like I'm a big sack of potatoes. Wasn't Manship a former Marine? Not former, always a Marine.
Yeah, I think he was, and then I remember when I mind melded with him, he was into to MMA, and I love combatives, and so we would mess around, and then we had the big guy that did the gaming. Like everybody there was a freaking superstar.
Yeah,
He says, "Yes, sir."
yeah, I think I got to re-enlist him, and that was a big deal for me. I took anytime a soldier asks you to re-enlist, I mean that's a very special and I don't think everybody gets that, And John Rape, who was my team leader, unfortunately passed in Afghanistan, but him and I always didn't get along, and I tried to move him to another platoon, and Captain Story said, "That's your soldier," and so I made him my driver, along with Tager as my gunner, and Tager didn't play well with others either. So I had two soldiers that were actively possibly going to frag me at any time. But two stories I'll tell real quick is Tager, who had lost teammates in the previous deployment. I stepped away with a contractor, walked probably 30 feet away from the vehicle, and I come back and he's like, "LT," he goes, "If you ever do that again, I will shoot you myself." And I'm like, "Acknowledged, I got it." And then with John Rape, again, just turned into a great NCO, but got out and went to the National Guard. And he called me up one day and said, "Hey, can you come re-enlist me?" And man, that touched my heart. Got to re-enlist him in the National Guard, and he deployed. Spent some time with Will Coulter. Will Coulter is now in Chattanooga. He's president of the board of Freedom Sings, but he got to spend some time with John Rape in Afghanistan when John was a contractor, and unfortunately, soft skin vehicle, and IED got him. But yeah, it's all these names. It's just a special place, and it's good to reflect on it. And I appreciate your friendship, Ty.
Absolutely, that was an amazing answer. Well, before we get out of here, do you want to maybe shout out your family? I know you talked about Melanie a little bit, but
yeah, I would love to. Melanie is dealing with retired Nate, and so I mean, kudos to her. But we've got a big operation here. Just to run down, got the 2 adult children in Kentucky with 7 grandchildren. Got Rihanna and Staff Sergeant teaching at Barton College, teaching the medical. What are they? I don't even know what they call it now. TB3 but we used to call it Combat Lifesaver. But she's doing that. Just outstanding. Then Megan is in her 5th year of architecture school. Graduates if all goes well, in May. She's also a guardsman. And then Josh just graduated. He's a 13 Fox guardsman going to K-State for construction science. Twins, again, they're just doing great. They have them doing a lot of construction projects. They're, sophomore. One has a driver's license, and they're really getting after it. And then of course Maddie is 12, and got a good friend group, getting enjoyed being in the same school. Smart as a whip, and just a blessing. But transition's hard, and here on this other side, just like I haven't been around. I mean, we figured I'd been TDY for 5 years and deployed for 5 years out of a 35-year career, and so I missed a lot of key moments in their lives, and they're just wanting to connect and spend time. And medically, I'm not moving as quick as I thought I would be at 54, but I'm getting there. I'm still blessed.
Well, this I think this calls for we all need to get together pretty soon, because
amen.
Just knowing that men like you are existing out there and thriving after the military, like that's what we do this for, because transition's rough.
I tell you, 30 June through 5 July, this little town puts on a heck of a party. We have all kinds of cover bands from, Kiss cover bands to, Bruno Mars. We've got Freedom Sings coming out. They're going to bring out songwriters. So we're going to have 3 soldiers that write their songs, and it gets performed on the kickoff of the event. So.
Yeah, I'm writing that down now. I have to search that up and see if we can make it out there sometime.
Yeah.
Well, sir, you've done a wonderful job. The reason we do this show is so that people can tell their stories, and you've shared so many stories. And go ahead. Oh yeah, let's hear this one.
So remember that from Baghdad?
Absolutely.
So we were, and I'm telling the story for Doc, because we were out there and all dehydrated, but we were recruiting at an IP station, and people are getting tired, and it's just a grind. And so one of the Iraqi lieutenants waves me back to this room, and I'm like, oh, this guy's probably gonna cut my head off. And so he brings out this like traditional sheikh outfit, and so he's laughing, and he dresses me all up in this. And then he escorts me into the commander's office, right? And so I'm walking around in this man dress, and they're taking pictures, and everybody gets a good laugh out of it. And we go back, and a couple weeks later, my interpreter's on, whatever his leave or whatever. But he comes back, and he had painted this portrait from this photograph, and it's like it's pretty comical. But my boys have it hanging in their room. So it's, I'm no Lawrence of Arabia, but, it definitely has stood the test of time of, like artifacts that we carry.
Yeah, no doubt. I also deployed once with 561st with Captain Brian Heverly.
Yes. Yeah.
He was a character. Like
he is a character.
Fun shit on that deployment.
Yeah, I watched your interview with him, and like his promos are classic. And I'm like, man, like he was like peeking around the corner, and he's a fun guy.
Yeah, very much so. Well, sir, thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you for sharing. We'll definitely be talking to you soon. And thanks to the LinkedIn audience that chimed in today. Thanks, Colonel Delata, for watching. I know that Quentin Smith is probably watching, because he said he was going to. Just being able to share with my guys, Al and Matt, of course, watch the show afterwards. He's working with the Houston Rodeo. Being able to share these leaders from my past with them, it's amazing.
So yeah, you got a bargaining chip. I will release the name if Colonel Delata. So I throw out that challenge, and like Colonel Delata, come on, and I will divulge the young lieutenant colonel that was not a huge fan of him.
Oh, that'll be worth it just to have him on just for that. Come on for 5 seconds, sir. I mean, okay, I'll tell a quick story. So one of the coolest things ever, shout out another leader. I don't know if you know this guy, Kevin Walsh, was the commo chief at the 716th when I first got to Fort Campbell. Great train, did wonderful things. But at one point I had to deploy the battalion, the S6, myself, and he wasn't going. So I had to go to this meeting. So Colonel Delata walks in and Colonel Delata I think Major Delata at this time. And he's like, you out, you out, you out. And these are like master sergeants, captains, other staff members. And he gets to me and I'm an E4. He's like, you can stay. So just the gravitas and he made shit fun too. Like he is a character as well. So. And these are all people that we got.
And he pulled off the cape. You know, one of the very few Army officers that can pull off the cape or a white mess dress. I didn't even know that existed. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, I remember when he wore that to something. It was, had this short thing up here. That's when he got that brand new King Ranch F-150. And I'll admit, I have an F-150 with that 700 watt sound system in it because of when he got his. That's the one thing he showed me was, hey, come look at this, Ty. This is a King Ranch, but look at this 700 watt sound system. And, that's what I remember. But anyway, lots of other stories, but we'll share those when you come on, Colonel Delata.
All right.
Well, thank you so much, sir. Appreciate you. And
brother.
We'll keep in touch. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Hey, that's a great interview there. It's always good to catch up, with people that you served with. I think Al went good night already, so I'll go ahead and close this show out. We have next week, future guest, we have James Massey, who was CIA Bob's squad leader in Iraq during the initial invasion of 2003 with the 101st MP Company. So we talk about stories. There's the 101st MP Company is a story unit on Fort Campbell, part of the 716th MP Battalion, many different missions. So we'll get James Massey's perspective on and his story of being in the 101st during 2003. Let's see what else we have here. I think that's pretty much it. All right. Hey, it's fun telling stories. That's all I got for this week. We'll see you next week.
If you or someone you know is in crisis, contact the Veterans Crisis Line at 1-800-273-8255. Then press 1.